There's a strange sadness that nobody talks about, the kind that appears after you finally start making money. Because your whole life, you imagined this moment differently. You imagined relief. You imagined freedom. You imagined waking up one day, checking your account balance, and finally feeling safe. Finally feeling enough. No more mentally calculating how much transport would cost before leaving the house. No more pretending you weren't stressed when your card declined. No more staring at things online, telling yourself, maybe one day. You imagined finally breathing properly, finally sleeping peacefully, finally being able to enjoy life without guilt attached to every small purchase. Because when someone struggles financially for a long time, money becomes emotional. It stops feeling like paper. It starts feeling like survival, like dignity, like escape. And maybe secretly, you thought money would finally silence the insecurity too. The insecurity of feeling behind. The insecurity of watching other people live comfortably while you quietly struggled. The insecurity of always feeling like life was happening somewhere else, without you. So for years, you carried this belief. Once I finally make money, everything inside me will calm down. And maybe for a few weeks it actually does. You buy things you once couldn't afford. You stop checking prices first. You stop calculating every tiny expense. You stop feeling embarrassed all the time. And honestly, that feeling is addictive. Because for the first time in a long time, life feels softer. You walk differently. You talk differently. You stop feeling invisible. Maybe people suddenly respect you more. Maybe your opinions matter more now. Maybe people finally listen when you speak. And deep down, that validation feels good. Really good. Because part of you still remembers what it felt like to struggle silently, to feel overlooked, to feel small. So when money finally enters your life, it doesn't just feel practical. It feels emotional. It feels personal. But then something happens. Something quiet. Something psychological. The happiness slowly fades, but the pressure stays. Because the human mind adapts quickly. What once felt luxurious slowly becomes normal. The excitement disappears. The emotional high weakens. And suddenly, your new lifestyle no longer feels exciting. It feels necessary. Now the expensive things that once made you feel successful become your standard. And standards are dangerous, because once your brain gets used to a better life, the fear of losing it becomes terrifying. And suddenly, you realize money solved some problems, but exposed others. Because now you don't just fear being broke, you fear going backwards. You fear losing the image, losing the comfort, losing the progress, losing the version of yourself you fought so hard to become. And that fear changes you. You become obsessed with work. You become anxious all the time. You start performing success constantly because internally you are terrified of no longer looking successful. And you, even while making more money than ever before, never truly relax. Because your body escaped financial struggle, but your mind never fully escaped survival mode. That's the part nobody talks about. Sometimes the hardest thing about making money is the psychological pressure of trying not to lose it. Nobody really teaches you what happens psychologically when you finally start making money. People teach you how to chase money, how to hustle, how to grind, how to become successful, how to escape financial struggle. But almost nobody teaches you what money does to your mind once it finally arrives. Because the truth is, making money changes more than your lifestyle. It changes your emotions, your identity, your relationships, your fears, your sense of self. Nobody teaches you about emotional spending. That strange moment where you feel stressed, emotionally drained, insecure, or invisible, so you buy something. Not because you truly need it, but because for a few minutes, the purchase changes your emotional state. Suddenly, you feel lighter, more attractive, more important, more successful, and your brain remembers that feeling. So slowly, Buying things stops being practical. It becomes emotional relief, a coping mechanism, a temporary escape from anxiety. That's why some people shop when they feel lonely, why some people overspend after emotional pain, why some people buy expensive things, then still feel empty minutes later. Because the item was never the real goal, the feeling was. Nobody teaches you about lifestyle inflation either, the terrifying way comfort quietly becomes normal. At first, the better life feels unreal. The nicer apartment, the better phone, the freedom to eat without checking prices first, the feeling of finally breathing easier. You tell yourself, I'll never take this for granted. But human beings adapt quickly, frighteningly quickly. And slowly, the things that once felt luxurious start feeling basic. Now your standards rise, your expenses rise, your expectations rise, and suddenly, the life you once dreamed about becomes the minimum life you feel emotionally comfortable living. That's why you make far more money than before, yet still feel financially trapped. Because your lifestyle expanded alongside your income. And now you are working harder than ever just to maintain the image of stability. Nobody teaches you about identity pressure. Because once people see you as successful, you start feeling pressure to maintain that identity. Now you feel like you must always look okay, always look successful, always look like your life is improving. And secretly, that pressure becomes exhausting. Because now your financial status becomes connected to your self-worth. So losing money no longer feels like losing money. It feels like losing yourself. It feels like becoming less important. And that fear quietly controls many people. Nobody teaches you about comparison addiction. Because social media destroys satisfaction silently. No matter how much progress you make, there's always somebody richer, somebody younger, somebody more successful, somebody traveling more, buying more, achieving more. And if your self-worth is unstable, your brain becomes trapped in endless comparison. You stop appreciating your own progress because somebody else always appears ahead. That's psychologically exhausting. Because comparison has no ending. There is no final level where insecurity disappears forever. Nobody teaches you about loneliness, the strange emotional loneliness that can appear after success. Because money changes relationships. Sometimes friends treat you differently. Sometimes people expect more from you. Sometimes you stop knowing who genuinely loves you and who simply loves what you can provide. That uncertainty changes people emotionally. You become guarded, more careful, less emotionally open. And suddenly, even while your life improves externally, you feel emotionally less safe internally. That contradiction hurts deeply. Because society convinces people that success automatically creates happiness. But emotional safety and financial success are not always the same thing. Nobody teaches you about performance. The exhausting pressure to constantly appear okay, to constantly appear successful, to constantly maintain an image. Because modern culture rewards appearances more than honesty. So you quietly suffer behind beautiful lifestyles. You smile publicly, post luxurious moments publicly, look calm publicly. But privately, you are overwhelmed, anxious, exhausted, terrified. And eventually, you become trapped inside the image you created. Because now, you feel emotionally unable to stop performing. And then there's the silent anxiety, the fear nobody sees, the fear of going backwards, because once you finally experience comfort, losing it feels terrifying, especially if you spent years struggling. Your body remembers survival, your nervous system remembers instability. So even after becoming financially stable, your mind may still behave like danger is nearby. That's why some successful people struggle to rest, why they constantly overwork, why they obsess over money, why they panic during peaceful moments. Because internally, they are still trying to emotionally escape a version of life they already physically escaped. And maybe the most dangerous part? Sometimes, the richer you become, the harder it becomes for you to feel peace. Because money can remove certain problems, but it cannot automatically heal insecurity. It cannot automatically create self-worth. It cannot automatically teach emotional stability. So if you use money to chase validation, importance, comparison, or identity, the chase never really ends. It simply becomes more expensive. The big shift happens. When you truly become peaceful with money, you experience a psychological shift. You stop using money to prove worth. You stop performing success constantly. You stop needing every purchase to communicate status. And slowly, your life becomes calmer. You spend intentionally. You move quietly. You protect your peace. You stop competing with strangers online. And ironically, you often become the most financially stable. Because emotional discipline matters more than appearances. Real wealth starts looking different when emotional maturity enters the picture. It becomes less loud, less performative, less desperate for validation, and more peaceful. At the beginning of life, many people chase money believing it will finally make them feel valuable. But eventually, some discover something deeper. Money magnifies what already exists inside you. If you are emotionally chaotic, money may amplify the chaos. If your self-worth depends on appearances, money may fund the performance. If you are deeply insecure, money may simply give the insecurity better clothing. But if you develop self-awareness, emotional control, peace, money becomes different. It becomes a tool, not an identity, not a mask. And maybe that's the real goal, not just making money, but becoming the kind of person who can hold money without losing themselves. Because honestly, that part is much harder. If this video connected with you deeply, subscribe, like the video, and tell me your thoughts below. And remember, some of the richest people emotionally are not the loudest. They are simply the calmest.